Welcome in. Thanks for stopping by again on such short notice. We are back for another quick edition of IDP. Today we have new post-punk, new shoegaze, new indie rock / indie pop coming from places such as Venice, Italy, Oakland, California, Malaysia, and England. It's hard to believe it's already June. But I do think, if you need an excuse to crack open an ice cold beer, you might as well celebrate, the beginning of June, the end of May, whichever you prefer. I also made some tacos. So, feel free to grab yourself a taco. I've got tacos with all the toppings, help yourself. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First, we have the brand new LP from Venice, Italy-based quartet. They're called New Candies, and their latest album is titled The Uncanny Extravaganze. This one is neo-psychedelic garage rock, I'd say, but with significant use of electronics, synths. Has a bit of variety stylistically, kind of going back and forth throughout the album. It can be fairly aggressive, noisy, almost maybe even abrasive, I would say. And other times it's more dreamy, drony. These guys are from Italy. They're Italian, from Venice, but I believe all the vocals are in English. If not all of it, most of it, as far as the language is in English. They have had some lineup shifts since their last LP. And I would say here they are leaning more into the electronic elements, like even more into them than they were before. I think you can definitely hear shades of bands like Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, like that one comes to mind often. Other maybe like Jesus and Mary Chain, maybe the band Temples, etc. It's psychedelic, post-punk with some shoegaze elements wrapped in there as well. Worth checking out if that sounds intriguing to you. That is from Venice, Italy, the band. They're called New Candies, and their album is titled The Uncanny Extravaganze. All right, up next we have the self-titled debut album from a band out of Oakland, California, out of the Bay Area. It's a post-punk quartet. They call themselves Grey Causeway, and that self-titled release is out now on Dandy Boy Records. Members of Grey Causeway are kind of veterans of the underground Bay Area music scene. Different members of the band have played in other bands such as the Peaches, the Smokers, Nuisance, the Paper Cuts, as well as a variety of others. Music on here has shades of Joy Division, Early New Order, Interpol, that kind of thing. It also has kind of a peculiar detached lyricism going on here. Definitely feels dark and haunting, but still accessible. I'd still call this post-punk, but still with some pop sensibilities. On my first listen, I found a lot of the vocal, the lyricism in the vocals to be distracting. There's a song called Geo Metro, where Geo Metro is repeated, I guess, in the chorus. I assume this is related to the car Geo Metro. Or there's another song called Killian's Red, which I'm not sure if it's about the beer or about a redheaded person, But when I hear that, it just makes me, makes me thirsty. But after a couple listens, I did warm up to that, I would say somewhat peculiar lyricism. The album definitely exhibits the classic post-punk / new wave influences, but does have a unique vibe of its own as well. Again, that is the Oakland band called Grey Causeway, and their debut album is self-titled. Back and forth on holiday. A woman has pulled the tab. Glad to hear you're off the slab. Next up, we have another self-titled debut LP. This time it is from a Malaysian five-piece shoegaze band called Commemorate. And this one is out now on Munai Records, M-U-N-A-I, Munai Records. These guys are really mining kind of the early shoegaze / dream pop styles, kind of doing their own, it's very atmospheric, ethereal vocals, loud, swirling, reverb-drenched guitars. Again, this band is from Malaysia, but I believe, again, that all the vocals are in English, although I'm not sure how much it matters because the vocals are very heavily processed and they're oftentimes very much buried in the mix. Some of the songs are more kind of evoking Cocteau Twins style a little bit, but for the most part, this is kind of heavy, swirling guitar wash with those kind of dreamy, melodic, ethereal vocals kind of floating underneath. This album is 7 tracks, but it's 40 minutes, with the closing track being an epic, I think almost 11-minute long song. People out there digging for some new shoegaze may want to give this one a shot. Again, from Malaysia, this is the band Commemorate, and their debut album is self-titled. Next we have what I imagine will be a one-off album from the British poet and author named Brian, who goes by the name Brian Bilston, and also the band, The Catenary Wires. This LP is titled Sounds Made by Humans, and it is out now on Skep Records. Yeah, so the Catenary Wires, who we've talked about more than one time before, the Catenary Wires are primarily led by Amelia Fletcher and Rob Percy, who are married, and they were also in the band Swansea Sound, and before that they've been in bands Tender Trap, Marine Research, Heavenly, Tallulah Gosh, kind of legends of the kind of indie pop scene. Yeah, so I've never heard of Brian Bilston. I don't know if he's got a significant following in England, where he's from, or not. I'm not really sure. But apparently, Amelia Fletcher and Rob Percy had heard that Brian Bilston had done like a reading of, I don't know if it was a poetry reading or a reading from his book or something. But anyway, regardless, he had done some reading where he was wearing a Heavenly, the band Heavenly, their band Heavenly, a t-shirt. So they had apparently approached him about doing this collaboration. I would say this doesn't necessarily resemble a Catenary Wires album. To me, it's definitely its own thing. A lot of this is Brian Bilston doing spoken word with music underneath it. I think this album works best when it feels like that spoken word, like Brian's spoken word, is a part of a larger song, versus there's a couple tracks where it feels like it's just spoken word over a bed of music that could be anything, if that makes sense. Yeah, so there's somewhere it's like feels like talking over just incidental music, and then there's others where I think it works well where it's spoken word within a larger song. I would also say that the poetry, or the spoken word aspect, the poetry aspect, has humor that I think probably will land better for someone from the UK, although I think there's some universal humor on here as well. I think this is quite good, but it's certainly not a traditional album, I guess. So, I would say it probably has limited widespread appeal. But I would say people that are fans of either Brian Bilston or Catenary Wires probably can come to this and probably will find something to like here. I would say it's witty, humorous. It's just a lot of fun. Once again, that is Brian Bilston and the Catenary Wires, and the name of the album is Sounds Made by Humans.
All those 9-to-5 jobs when each day you would take the morning train and then take another home again.
Every song on the radio reminds me of you and the DJs. I know this much is true. I'm all shut up and I don't know what to do.
Does a human heart work? How does a human heart work? Blood is first received in the right atrium via two veins, the vena cava superior and inferior. Alexa, where do we go to when we die? Where do we go to when we die? Activating Google Maps. Completed activation. Would you like to start from your current location?